I'll begin broadly with a discussion of Asia's rise and America's strategic engagement in the Asia-Pacific region. I'll try and affirm the guiding principles of the realignment plan, including Guam's vital role in that policy, and I'll provide a status update on how we in Washington are proceeding with the implementation of this military buildup. As our Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, said, Asia has become the center of gravity in a rapidly globalizing world. The region encompasses over one-half of the Earth's surface, with 43 countries and over 60% of the world's population. The region accounts for over one-third of U.S. trade and gross world product. More than one-third of the world's merchant fleet and one-half of its oil passes through the region's sea lanes. Regional stability and free access to sea lanes and trade routes are essential to continued economic growth. And for 60 years, the United States and its alliance system has been the guarantor of regional peace and stability that has enabled the historic growth that we've seen in Asia. America welcomes Asia's rise. Indeed, the United States is a Pacific nation with an enduring role in Asia. Again, in the words of Secretary Gates, our continued presence in this part of the world has been an essential element enabling this rise, opening doors, protecting and preserving common spaces on the high seas, in space, and more in the cyber world. This presence has offered other nations the crucial element of choice and enabled their entry into a globalized international society. President Obama is committed to ensuring that our words, as well as our actions, demonstrate the depth of our engagement in the region. The administration is fully conscious of the importance of American leadership to the region's development, and we are focused on leading in ways that serve to maximize the benefits of partnership with and among other nations. For our part, the United States will not waver in demonstrating our commitment to the peace, stability, and prosperity of the entire region. We are therefore expanding our engagement to include collaboration with new partners while we continue to deepen and strengthen our relationship with old friends and allies. The Department of Defense has sought to consolidate and reposition basing in the past couple of decades, not just in the Asia-Pacific, but in Europe and elsewhere, including the U.S. mainland. Our defense posture should and will balance the need for permanent overseas presence that assures allies and partners of our commitments with the need for a flexible ability to respond to contingencies, emerging threats, and global security needs. The modernization of our regional presence, initiated by U.S. Pacific Command in Hawaii, led to a U.S.-Japan alliance transformation and realignment process, sometimes called the Defense Policy Review Initiative, or DPRI. Through this process, our two countries set out to expand the focus of the alliance to a regional and global partnership, as well as set conditions for a stable basing relationship in Japan and the region. The DPRI process resulted in a series of bilateral agreements in 2005, 2006, and 2009, highlighted by the Realignment Roadmap and the Guam International Agreement. The roadmap is the most comprehensive and significant alliance transformation project we have undertaken with the Japanese. It outlines a carefully negotiated and interlocking set of changes to transform U.S. force posture in Japan and the Pacific. The realignment of approximately 8,000 Marines and approximately 9,000 of their spouses and children from Okinawa to Guam is a critical element of the roadmap. It will further several related strategic goals. First, the realignment will ensure the continued long-term presence of U.S. forces in Japan and in the Western Pacific, sending a positive message to our friends and allies in the region. Second, it will serve to strengthen our alliance with Japan, which serves as the foundation of our presence in the Asia-Pacific region. And third, by making better use of Guam's advantages, we will array U.S. forces in Asia more effectively for the evolving security environment. Guam is an essential component of U.S. strategy in Asia and of the U.S. national security strategy more broadly. Guam's advantages as a stable, secure, and robust operating base on American soil make it a unique and critically valuable location. The island provides flexibility and freedom of action necessary to support peacetime engagement, humanitarian assistance and disaster response, and capacity building of partners in Asia. Expanding Guam's role in the U.S. basing strategy secures the enduring presence of U.S. forces in Japan, enhances deterrence, and provides reassurance to our allies, partners, and friends. Guam has long claimed that it is where America's day begins. It promises also to be where America's engagement with Asia begins. Success in Guam will anchor an enduring, mutually beneficial set of relations throughout Asia and the mid-Pacific island region. I recognize the complexity and enormity of what Washington expects from Guam in the coming years. In my discussions with your elected representatives, both this week and in past months, I have become quite familiar with Guam's concerns about the tsunami of requirements coming from D.C., as well as worries that the federal government may not provide adequate support in the coming years. This is a point well taken by me and others. As a former Marine, I am familiar with the very important quality of life issues associated with any relocation of forces. It can sometimes be a difficult transition for units and individual service members and their families, and the impacted communities have to adopt to the changes that accompany an expanded or a reduced military presence. The breadth and magnitude of the buildup on Guam, coupled with the island's unique geography and aging infrastructure, make this move of Marine units a particularly challenging one. This is a highly complex undertaking involving many partners: the Department of Defense and other federal agencies, the Congress, the White House, the government of Japan, and the government and the citizens of Guam. Establishing the right relationship with the community on Guam is not just an option, it is an imperative. I am personally committed to making the realignment successful for the people of Guam, our servicemen and women, and their families. Over many decades, Guam has displayed tremendous support for America's military. Your brave sons and daughters have made extraordinary contributions to the safety and security of all Americans. I've been told that Guam has the highest per capita rate of men and women in uniform among all U.S. states and territories. Guamanians continue to enlist in service to their country at astounding rates. More than 450 young men and women enlisted this past year alone. And the island has suffered the most losses of native sons per capita during each major war of the last century. Guam's service is exemplary, and I assure you, it is not forgotten. As a U.S. territory, Guam should exemplify the best of America in the Pacific. Back in Washington, we are working hard to ensure that the buildup is a catalyst for a bright future in Guam. Let me emphasize that the buildup becomes a catalyst for a bright future for Guam. Within the Pentagon, there is a robust, multi-tiered process in place for addressing the requirements and the challenges of this buildup in Guam. I can assure you that the realignment of forces in the Pacific to include the implementation of buildup has the attention of the most senior levels of the Department of Defense, up to and including the Deputy Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Defense. The Deputy Secretary chairs a Guam Oversight Council that meets regularly and brings together key Department of Defense stakeholders, including combatant commands, military departments, service leadership, and the Office of the Secretary of Defense to address implementation challenges.